Whoopi Goldberg, she's been suspended for The View for 2 weeks after her comments and remarks that she made about how the Holocaust wasn't really about race. Just a reminder, let's see what she said.
We're preparing them for a world that doesn't exist outside of their own house.
Well, also, if you're going to do this, then let's be truthful about it, because the Holocaust isn't about race. It's about man's inhumanity to man. I said that the Holocaust wasn't about race, and it was instead about man's inhumanity to man. But it is indeed about race, because Hitler and the Nazis considered Jews to be an inferior race. Now, words matter, and mine are no exception. I regret my comments, as I said, and I stand corrected.
Now, as soon as that happened, the other hosts were like, wait a second, what do you mean by that? So there was challenging happening. It was noticed immediately. And you could probably almost see this coming, because ABC News did release this statement talking about the suspension that she's going to be serving. From Kim Godwin, the president of ABC, wrote this: effective immediately, I'm suspending Whoopi Goldberg for 2 weeks for her wrong and hurtful comments. While Whoopi has apologized, I've asked her to take time to reflect and learn about the impact of her comments. The entire ABC News organization stands in solidarity with our Jewish colleagues, friends, family, and communities. As I said, that's from Kim Godwin. Now, as this all broke out, there's been more conversation about it, even on The View. And they discussed, this happened as they were discussing the let's go to this now from ABC. Her remarks emerged during this conversation on Monday's broadcast. This is the background to this, of The View, in which the co-hosts discussed the Tennessee School Board's ban of Maus, which is a nonfiction graphic novel about cartoonist Art Spiegelman's father and his experience surviving the Holocaust. And for more context, because of the fact that maybe she missed the point, maybe other folks saw what was happening, David Baddiel told Good Morning Britain a little bit more articulately and clearly why this was just so wrong. Let's listen to him.
And I think, what does Whoopi Goldberg think it is? Well, I think what a lot of people think it is religious intolerance. And the problem with that is, I'm an atheist and the Gestapo would have shot me tomorrow. My great uncle Arno, who died in the Warsaw Ghetto, was not an observant Jew. And indeed, it's not just the Holocaust. Now, neo-Nazis marching with torches saying the Jews will not replace us in Charlottesville. They would not ask a Jew whether he kept kosher before they set light to their house. They're not interested in faith, and the Nazis were not interested in faith. They were interested in racial purity. That's what the laws, the Nuremberg laws were. They were racial purity laws.
I'm not sure many people that could argue against that. But of course, we'll have these kind of discussions. Now it'll shift to whether or not she should have been suspended. So Dan, I guess that's now the argument that's being, I guess, asked across the internet, if you would. If this is harsh, maybe it should have been a day or two. Maybe the apology was good enough, because it actually was a real apology. What are you thinking?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. We have so many terrible apologies so often that you have to say that, okay, this was at least a decent apology here, but the statements have to be said were so egregious and so off base. It's basically the equivalent of saying all war crimes matter, as though like, oh, all human violence or all of this is bad. In reality, like Whoopi's comments just erase what that gentleman on Good Morning Britain was saying so clearly, that bigots tend to not be, exact or, very careful with their bigotry. They're just rounding people up. And so, especially in moments like today in American society, where unfortunately it isn't that much hyperbole to saying you're having a rising tide of far-right extremism that has waves of anti-Semitism, that has waves of anti-racism. You can't just say, oh, these are just people who hate people and we have to come together. It's important to call out what is specifically happening and who is being specifically targeted. Otherwise, we've seen what happens. It gets washed away into all lives matter kind of context and rhetoric. So what Whoopi Goldberg said was really damaging. I'm not the person who hands out bans all the time. I'm usually the person evading them. So I don't know if I'm the one to say if 2 weeks is the right amount of suspension, but I think it's worth taking some time to reflect. And it's also worth mentioning, this is not Whoopi Goldberg's first dumb opinion on The View. The View's not a show full of people who are really smart about politics. It's a secret. Shh.
Well, there's the thing, and also when it comes to off-the-cuff comments and things like that, you're gonna have something in topics like this. I mean, as you said, this isn't the first time maybe someone has stepped in on live TV when they're speaking off the cuff, and that's why so many things are scripted and reviewed and said, because people have these thoughts and maybe they didn't think it through that well. Now, maybe that is a time for 2 weeks worth to reflect on your thoughts, but I'm not sure then what the next step. I guess when they bring up things like the Holocaust again or genocide, maybe she'll rethink it, but I don't know. Maybe it's just a blowover period. Whatever someone decides, as far as someone taking 2 weeks off, she's still getting, I mean, it's not like she's going broke over the 2 weeks being gone. It is what it is. I don't have a dog in the fight of how long she would be gone, but generally it's to get people to stop talking about it as part of it, because that's part of ABC's thoughts as well. Now, there was some disagreement and fights. Former View host Meghan McCain, I'm not sure the angle she's taking it when it comes to exactly what happened here, considering Whoopi Goldberg made the comments and is facing the consequences for it, both from people's opinions and the suspension, but she did talk about a double standard that apparently is happening. Here's Meghan McCain's thoughts. There's a double, triple, and even quadruple standard if you are conservative. If this isn't an enormous problem for ABC News today, it will grow to a bigger one, is what she wrote. People have less and less tolerance for overpaid celebrities, with every access to education themselves using their platforms to spew bigotry. And from my experience working in television, the ugly things said casually backstage always have a way of coming out into the light when the camera is on. So I'm sure she has lots of experiences with that and with things happening backstage, but there's reasons she's not on The View anymore either. And it's not just the fights, it's because she said things that were out of bounds and didn't make much sense either. Now, I'm not sure that's not why she parted ways with them. But yeah, if you see it, it's happened with you as well. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that quote was what baffled me the most when she's like, people have less and less tolerance for overpaid celebrities. It's like flag one with she was literally famous for being John McCain's daughter. And again, she fit in The View only in the sense that not a lot of, The View is only a political show in the sense that they have a political topic on there and it's a popular daytime talk show. They're not really great political pundits. I remember Whoopi Goldberg was talking about Bernie Sanders in the most ridiculous ways during the campaign, asking why didn't he support Hillary Clinton when in reality Bernie Sanders supported Hillary Clinton pretty readily. It just wasn't enough for Whoopi Goldberg. So we've analyzed this for years and years that The View is just not a good place, and Whoopi Goldberg especially isn't that astute with her political rhetoric, but this time it just went to a place that was just really, for lack of a better term, not kosher.
Yeah. Well, they'll get beyond it, and she'll come back, and people remember, and then people will forget. It's how it works.
That's how it goes. Yeah.